Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in to another cartridge comparison. Today's video I'm going to be comparing the 6.8 Western. Now I've done a lot of videos on the 6.8 Western, especially comparison videos. And I'm doing another one because so many of you have requested it. So what are we comparing today? To the 280 Ackley Improved. So we're going to look at brief history about both. Really the case capacity, the ballistics, and downrange performance, and which one might be a better big game cartridge. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get into it. Starting with the 6.8 Western. Yes, this is a 270 WSM. The 6.8 Western's parent case is the 270 WSM. Now, the dimensions are extremely similar. The 6.8 Western 270 WSM, but the 6.8 Western is a tad bit shorter, and I believe it's going to have a little bit less powder capacity, but as we look into it more, I think you're going to get more out of the 6.8 Western, especially with the bigger bullets. But let's just go ahead and look at the powder capacity for this short Magnum. And I think it's going to be extremely similar. Again, the 6.8 Western will have just a little bit less powder capacity. And let's just look at the 150 grain bullet. You're going to see 71.8 grains of water capacity. I'm going to say with the 6.8 Western, you're probably around 70, maybe 69, 68. So it does hold quite a bit of powder in it. And velocities wise for reloading, unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of data on it. Now, Hodgdon does have some data on it. Let me show you that real quick. All right, I'm on the Hodgdon's website looking at a 165 grain Nosler Accubon long range bullet. And the reason I don't use this very much, I mean, this is a good starter. If you do have a 6.8 Western, you definitely should use this as a reference. But I mean, look at the max velocities with a 165 grain. So far, what you can see, the highest velocity is 2,943 feet per second. Let's see if we can find anything higher. Okay, so the highest is 2,956 feet per second. Now, you can get factory ammo, and Winchester claims you can get it going 2970. So this is really modest reloading data for the 6.8 Western, but again, it's somewhere to start. I expect you could easily get 3,050 feet per second with a 165 grain bullet. In the late 50s, P.O. Ackley, very well known, gunsmith, wildcatter, was taking existing cartridges and experimenting to try to improve the velocities out of them. And one case that was very much used to improve was the 30-06 case. Now, the 280 Ackley Improved is based off the 280 Remington, which the 280 Remington is just a 30-06 case neck down to 7mm. And so Ackley, what he did was he took a 280 Remington, he straightened the walls out so, it's not as tapered, and a very sharp shoulder with that 40 degree, and he improved the power roughly 50 to 100 feet per second, and I would say this is probably his most popular and most successful cartridge that he wildcatted. And in 2008, Nosler introduced it as a factory cartridge that you could buy factory ammo with. And so let's go ahead and look at the performance with it. So using a 168 grain Accubon long range, now before I show you the velocities, let's just see what the case holds in water capacity. So if you remember, we're thinking the 6.8 Western has about 69 to 70 grain water capacity with a 165 grain bullet. So there's about a 5 grain, maybe 4 grain difference between the two. So they're very similar. What I'm really looking for is a bullet that has similar BC. Now, the 168 Accubon long range has a BC of 0.616, and the 165 AccuBond long range and the 6.8 Western has a BC of 0.620. So they're extremely similar. And when you hand load it, this thing is quite potent. You can get it well over 2,900, and in fact, just a little over 2,950. So max velocity says 2,968, around there. That's really good performance, and it definitely matches the factory ammo that you can buy for the 6.8 Western. Now, it's not really fair if I used a reloaded max velocity number for the 280 AI and I used a factory number for the 6.8 Western, since we don't really know what the true potential for the 6.8 Western is yet. So I'm going to use the Hornady Precision Hunter factory ammo with a 162 grain ELDX, and it's going a muzzle velocity, it's 2850, so it's probably about 100 feet per second slower than what you could get it hand loading it. But I want to make this as fair as possible. And then, of course, the 6.8 Western, we're going to use the 165 grain AccuBond long range, and that is going 2,970 feet per second, as you probably already know. Okay, the ballistics for the 280 AI with that 162 grain ELDX factory ammo from Hornady. A muzzle velocity of 2,850 feet per second. The energy is a respectable 2,900 foot-pounds of recoil. Okay, so let's just take this out to, I don't know, say 400 yards. Out to 400 yards, it's still almost going 2,300 feet per second. The energy is still quite good. The LDX is a high BC bullet. It's almost 1,900 foot-pounds of energy. At 400 yards, when you sight it in at 100, it only has 26.3 inches of drop. Now let's take this out to 500. It's going mid 2,100 feet per second, and the energy is almost 1,700 foot-pounds. And then the drop, 47.5 inches. With the 6.8 Western factory ammo from Winchester, 165 grain AccuBond long range, it has a muzzle velocity of 2,970 feet per second. You're going to see a bit of a bump, 3,200 foot-pounds of energy compared to 29. So let's take this out to 400. At 400, it's going almost 2,400 feet per second and almost has 2,100 foot-pounds of energy. So it has about a 200 foot-pound difference. The drop is a little bit better. It's 23.8 inches of drop. And then when we take this out to 500 yards, still going mid 2,200 feet per second and 1,863 foot-pounds of energy. So it has about a 100-yard advantage of energy. Now the drop, it's about a 4-inch difference. Not huge, but it's there. In conclusion, the 6.8 Western is a little bit more powerful than a 280 AI. About 100 feet per second is my best guess of how much quicker it is, and about 200 more foot-pounds of energy. And so, is it a huge difference? No. Which one's more versatile? I'm going to have to give it to the 280 AI. It should be able to shoot higher BC, bigger bullets. Now, 6.8 Western, they're still making newer bullets, so maybe that will change. But for now, I'd say the 280 AI is a little bit more versatile. And lastly, if I had to choose between these two, I think I would go with a 280 AI, mostly because I already have a 270 cartridge, and I like to round out all the cartridges I have. So I don't have a 7mm, so yeah, I would pick a 280 II. You really can't go wrong with either one. They're very similar. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.